So welcome back to What Gear Reviews, and today I'm going to be looking at the Sony HTZ9F Dolby Atmos surround soundbar. And I want to start by saying Sony did not send me this soundbar, they did not sponsor this video, which means I can pretty much say whatever I want about this. So it's going to be a really unbiased review, and I actually went out and paid for this, so if I could get a thumbs up and a subscribe for that, I would really appreciate it. So now that What Gear's hit 25,000 subscribers, I've decided to set up a new format for all of my reviews, so it kind of has a recurring pattern every time you watch a video from me. So I'm going to break it down into 4 sections. Number 1, it's going to be the design of the product. What does it look like? Is there anything that I like about it? Anything that I don't like about it? Number 2, usability. How easy is it to operate? Is it really difficult, or is it super easy and revolutionary? Number 3, the quality of the product. In this case, it's going to be all about how good is the sound quality on this soundbar. And number 4, my favorite section, it's going to be awesome features, because I believe that every product should have some awesome features. If it doesn't, then it's just a bit shitty, isn't it? So that's the new format for What Gear going forward, and you can expect this same format in all of my reviews. So the design on this thing. Sony have gone for quite a minimalistic, clean design here. The bar is slightly wider than what I'm used to, at around 1 meter. The wider soundbar actually isn't a bad thing for me, because it actually fits perfectly on my TV stand, and it actually matches the size of my TV, which is 50 inches. So anything smaller than that, it might look a bit out of place, but it's the perfect size for 50 inches or above. So the majority of the soundbar has a textured feel to it as opposed to a high gloss. It does have a bit of high gloss across the top, and behind the grill it has a brushed metal finish, which you would have seen before on some of Sony's older soundbars. So the buttons across the top of the soundbar aren't that clearly marked, and when you push them, they're not that tactile. It would have been nice if they added a bit of haptic feedback in there or something, just so you know that you've actually pushed them, but I'll come back to those in the usability section of this video. The ZF9 does, however, have an onboard display, so if you find yourself feeling around in the dark for the buttons and hitting them by accident, the display will actually let you know what's happening. Now, one of the things that I really like about this soundbar and some of Sony's older soundbars is the removable grille. Now, when you remove the grille, it doesn't do much for the sound quality, but it's just nice to be able to change the look from time to time. And yeah, I like it, it's a cool feature. Now, when you remove the magnetic grille, behold, the 3 drivers. These drivers are fairly small and not quite as aesthetically pleasing as some of Sony's older speakers with the magnetic fluid drivers. But these 2-inch drivers are mightier than they look, and I'll get back to that in the quality section of the video. Also behind the grille, Sony have hidden a nice little bit of bling with a gold high-res audio sticker, and I'm a big fan of stuff like that. Due to the HTZ9F's driver configuration, Sony are calling this the world's first 3.1 Dolby Atmos surround soundbar. The 0.1 being the subwoofer, which is quite a hefty bit of kit. Is it just me, or does it feel like Sony have really designed this not to be seen? Across the front it's got a netted finish, and then it's got this massive high gloss port on the front. So if you're wondering why there's always ports in subwoofers, well, it's for a good reason. It's for airflow. Basically, the more the driver can breathe, the deeper the low ends will be from that subwoofer. So it's there for a good reason. I don't know how I feel about that high gloss though. So the remote control, slightly nicer than some of Sony's old designs, but it's not a massive leap forward in usability. It's pretty standard, just a little bit more rounded than some of the older ones. Now, I'm not a designer or anything like this, but I kind of feel like with a remote control, it doesn't need to always be a rectangle. And what you really want to look at is where your thumb goes. Where are the places your thumb can easily reach with minimum effort? And for me, it's the back button, the left button on the pad here, the center button, and the dimmer switch. Now, those 4 locations could be volume up and down, power on, or source, and that would make this control much easier to use. It's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below this video. Now onto the sound quality. So this does support Dolby Atmos, which is kind of emulated, because a real Dolby Atmos setup would have speakers in the ceiling firing down. And with this soundbar, it's only got front-facing drivers, so Sony have had to use some magic behind the speaker to kind of emulate those 2 channels above your head. And I guess the question that you're wondering is, does it actually work and does it sound good? So let me start by saying it will only work properly and you'll only get the most from this with actual Dolby Atmos content. And there's not that much of it out there at the moment, but they do give you a demo Blu-ray in the box, which I've tested out, and I must say it's pretty impressive. It's not quite the same as having the overhead speakers, but you do get that vertical feel to the sound, especially when you turn this soundbar up. And one of the great things about having this feature on this soundbar is the fact that it kind of makes it future-proof, because in the future when all Blu-ray support Dolby Atmos, this soundbar will still be valid. So it could be a good sound investment if you're looking to invest in a new soundbar. So the quality the soundbar will produce is heavily dependent on the source you are using, and it can support high-res audio files such as DSD, WAV and FLAC and all this kind of stuff. And it also supports DSEEHX, which is Sony's very own upscaling audio software. Basically, it will take those lossy sound files and try and add more detail into them, upscaling them closer to high-res audio. And this delivers an output of around 400 watts, and that is equal to... This is the part where I usually put in a knockout clip from the UFC or something like that. Leave your comments below this, what's 400 watts equal to? So there's another really cool feature that allows you to adjust the sound on this soundbar if you're not watching Dolby Atmos content, and that is the vertical S button here. Basically, it will take your normal stereo sound and try to emulate that Dolby Atmos feel, and it works really well for certain types of content. If you're watching movies, then it generally works. If you're watching regular TV, not so good, but it's a good feature to have. What I'd recommend when you're watching TV, just have auto sound on. It will switch between the different preset modes you got here, or if you want to specify, just hit the buttons there. I've been using auto sound mostly, but the preset sounds do work well. Now when it comes to bass output, this thing is so powerful. It actually sometimes outpowers the mids and the highs. So if you find that happening, you probably want to turn down the bass on the remote control. There is a button there to do it, so it's quite easy to adjust. So generally speaking, the audio quality on this is really nice. If you listen to high-res audio, you're really going to get that crisp, detailed sound. The bass is really powerful, and if you fine-tune it perfectly for you, you're going to get a really nice experience. The separation between the left and right channels, because it's quite a wide soundbar, is actually really good. The vertical sound is good, but not amazing. It works. Maybe when I watch a proper Blu-ray with Dolby Atmos, maybe I'll get the full effect and really appreciate it. So one of the things I want to talk about when it comes to sound quality is the positioning of the soundbar. You kind of need to be front and center, right in the middle, to get the most from it. And I had a strange experience here with the subwoofer. When I had it right next to the soundbar, it was kind of cutting in and out at times, and as soon as I moved it away, more than 3 meters away, it was perfect. It's a bit of a glitch there in the system. Maybe it's a software thing that Sony will update later on. And I've heard several soundbars over the years, and how does this stack up against all of those that I've heard in the past? It's really quite good. It's not quite as powerful as some of the more expensive options out there. The Dolby Atmos definitely gives it an edge. When it comes to music, it sounds really good in music mode. When it comes to the vertical surround engine, it works really well for specific types of content, not for everything. The bass is really nice, the treble's really nice, the high ends are really quite crisp, and generally speaking, it's an all-rounder. In that price range for a Dolby Atmos soundbar, it sounds really good to me. Now onto the third section, usability. If you plug this in via HDMI, you'll actually get a user interface that will display on your TV. And this is really important if you're going to be watching actual Dolby Atmos or DTSX or Dolby Vision content, because you need to adjust some of the settings in there. It's a little bit fiddly to use, but once you set it up once, it's done. One of the features you're going to want to look at in this menu is also setting the distance you are sitting from the soundbar, and this would adjust the sound and that vertical surround sound effect a little bit, so you get the most from it. So really important you use that feature if you're going to be buying this soundbar. Now something to note here as well is if you have an older TV like my old plasma in my front room, you can't actually use the HDMI ARC feature, which allows the audio to return down the HDMI cable back to the soundbar itself. So you're going to need to use a HDMI and an optical, which isn't a problem because Sony were nice enough to put an optical cable in the box with the soundbar. So you'll need 2 cables instead of 1 if you have an older TV. Now I've got a little complaint about this soundbar, and it is the onboard controls, and they're quite hard to see even in daylight. So when the lights are quite dim, if you're watching a movie or something like this and you lose the remote, you want to adjust the sound quickly, you could quite easily accidentally hit the wrong button. And I don't know what the solution for this is. Maybe they could have used the raised sort of button symbol on there or something like that. So if you find yourself feeling around in the dark for the right button, it's really hard to do. But yeah, if you've got the remote, all good. The remote isn't a revolutionary design, it's pretty basic, but all the buttons that you need are there, so not much to complain about. It's a remote. So let's have a look at the ports on the back of this speaker. You've got two HDMI ins, one HDMI out with ARC, which is the audio return channel, which I mentioned earlier, as well as an analog in, if you're old school like that, and an optical in as well, which you might need if you don't have an ARC channel. You've also got a USB input here, so you can put your high-res audio files onto that, plug it straight into the soundbar if you want. And then you've got a LAN input, so you can connect this to your local network. And the ZF9 does support Wi-Fi as well, and I'll speak a bit more about the functionality there in the awesome features section. And that actually brings me on to the awesome features section, which I'm about to start right now. Number 4. So the ZF9 supports Google Assistant. Now, one thing to bear in mind here is Sony haven't actually put a mic in the control or the soundbar, so you will need a Google Assistant device on your network already, like a Google Home or something like that, which you can then use to send commands to the soundbar, and that's quite a cool feature. Really, for those people out there who have that whole smart home setup thing going on. The second awesome feature is Google Chromecast. So for me, for example, in my front room where I don't have a smart TV, you can actually throw music on the soundbar, so it basically turns your TV into a kind of smart TV, which is a good feature for people like me with stupid TVs. Another awesome feature is the fact that this soundbar supports LDAC. Which is high-res audio streaming over Bluetooth, and this is done using a compression method which is Sony's very own, and it can only be used with other Sony LDAC devices. So if you have a bunch of these, one in each room, or different kinds of LDAC devices around your house, you basically kind of got that Sonos multi-room setup but with higher quality audio. And the last awesome feature that I'm going to mention here, and I think it's worth mentioning, actually comes at a price, and it's the rear Sony speakers, the HTZ9R wireless rear speakers. Basically, they'll connect to this soundbar and turn your 3.1 soundbar into a 5.1 surround sound system, but you also get that vertical magic which Sony have thrown in on this particular soundbar. I wish I could have got a pair of those to test with this video so I can let you know how good that really works. And bear in mind, even though I say they're wireless, they do need power. So I know in some of my old videos I said they're wireless and people said no, there is a wire. Of course there's a wire, they need power.
The bus don't work on water unless you've got power.
And that's pretty much the end of this video review. If you want to check out a more in-depth review, check out whatgear.net, where I have the written version of this with a bit more detail in there about the file formats and stuff like this. If you guys are thinking about buying this soundbar, make sure you check out the link below this video so you can check out the latest prices on it right now. And there's always offers running, so that link should show you the latest offer. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Let me know what Sony video you want to see next, and I'll do my best to get my hands on that product. And I want to say a big thank you to all of the Twitter followers who I spoke to recently, who are now subscribers of the What Gear channel. Big thumbs up to you guys. Anyway, see you guys in the next one. Thank you.